Hello, everybody. I went ahead and prepared another Joseki slash positional judgment video. And today we're going to be looking at this Joseki, very extremely common Joseki, and very good for lower ranked players to learn and very good for stronger players to learn. Um, this video will include things that are useful to low ranked players, but also things that are useful to much stronger players. And so I'm going to go ahead and show how we got to this position, just to make sure that we know how we got to it. And so we start on a start point, and when white approaches, we go ahead and make an enclosure. We're kind of just attaching on the bottom here, and we're getting this normal extend Joseki. However, for a lot of people, this is where the Joseki ends. It just ends in this abrupt position, and what ends up happening is black will normally play somewhere else. But there's actually follow-ups to this position. There's more to this position than what we normally see. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today is the three other possible things that can happen here. And first off, this one is this extension. Now, a lot of people don't play this extension. It's very rarely seen at all. For even in higher amateur games, this extension is not often seen. People see it as really slow, but it's actually not. There are some really great situations where an extension like this would be a great option, and we're going to be looking at those as well. And another one that happens is when black plays away, white may also play this move. Um, and I know that at a lower level, what ends up happening is something that's bad. At the lower level, they just end up Atariing here, and white gets to capture this. This is suboptimal. This is not a good move. We should not be playing this way. We should always be looking to gain more by sacrificing a little bit extra. And so this is a locally bad position for black. This is very good for white. Later on, white gets free follow-up like this, and we can prevent that from happening. So we should never play this way. So what instead should happen is black should extend, white should go ahead and cover on the outside, and black should then play here at c15. And basically what happens is it allows white to capture the stone, but later on, black can then get this forcing move for free, forcing white to capture these stones. And you can kind of see this position versus this position versus this position. And we can already tell that this one is much better. But what about another option? There's also this option. This is another option that isn't seen very often. It isn't seen because it's not as locally big as the other move. I bet I can tell you something that most people didn't know. Did you know that this move and this move are locally about 15 points? That's pretty big. 15 points is a lot of points. But, however, the size of this move often depends on the value of the rest of the board, basically how the position looks around. And so playing this right away, or playing this right away as well, or playing this right away as well is probably not good to play right away. However, there's a huge issue. People tend to play them late or never. The one that we often see that's often played is this one. So we often get it as white, but we don't often get this drop down as black. And I wanted to look at some options or some games that professional players have played, and we'll go ahead and see how they went ahead with these positions. And so the very first game, we have Huang Yongsong, 7-dan professional, versus Deng Yufei, 9-dan professional as white. And we're going to go ahead and kind of look how early they played this move. A lot of players will look at this board and they'll make the decision that there's so much open board. Why would I ever play anything else? Why not, make an extension on the bottom? Why not make an extension out to the right side here? These obviously must be bigger, but reality is not. So here's the thing is the top is actually the biggest part of the board for white and black in this position. Black makes the decision that they're going to get more value here. Remember, there's that 15-point local value. But we also get to count what's on top of that, which would be any attack that we could leverage. As to where black could have made the decision to go here, but now maybe white also makes the decision that, hey, there's a lot of value in the top side of the board. Maybe I just want to play here. And now we have to spend more than one move to really make this ours, right? Like we have to add another move. We don't even know where we might even play to really make that worthwhile. So the right extension isn't big enough, but now this extension also isn't big enough. It's not really worth it. And what ends up happening is a lot of players don't really know the value of this move, so they end up playing it way later after all the side extensions are taken away, and then they're just like, well, maybe I'll play it now. But it also happens in the reverse way because a lot of players just don't know the value of it. And so black chooses to play it right now. They know that they can take that 15-point value right this moment, and white will have to come up and fix the top side. Of course, white will not fix that way, and they will play at Q17 instead, which is what happened in the game. But that is for another day. So let's go ahead and look at another one. So in this one, we have Gu Zihao versus Kim Ju-seok. Both are 9-dan professionals. And let's go ahead and take a look at how they use this position in this one. So in this game, we can actually see that white uses this to attack. White decides that they're not really going to get much value out of the outside, which could have been done here, and then black would get this extension. But this was probably too comfortable for black. So white chooses to play here instead, which allows black to get the forcing moves, of course. And now white is going to attack this. Instead of just simply playing here, they play to attack. So white is using this corner to leverage an attack on this upper right group, which is also a way that you can use the corner. We should not be avoiding to play at this corner at all times. We should be considering it as an option. We should definitely not be avoiding it. Let's go ahead and look at another position. This time, though, we're going to look at something a little different. We're going to look at Gu Zihao versus Park Young-han, both 9-dan professionals. And in this case, we're going to be looking a little bit at the extension instead. Maybe when black plays this extension, why would black play this extension? And again, we can see that at this point in the game, black plays it really incredibly early. It is a very early extend. Again, a lot of people might be looking at the board being like, hey, why is this not bigger? Or is it not bigger to protect here? The problem is that these areas of the board are very open, and we don't actually know how much value we're going to get from them versus this extension here, which is very solid. Black is saying, I know I'm going to get value here. And if white tries to come in here, black knows they are safe. Black can pincer. They don't have to really put too much thought to it, and they can just pincer the stone. They don't really have to save this group anymore, as to where if we try to play somewhere else and white was to pincer it, now maybe black will be worried about an attack or something. So this is another case where black plays the extension really early, as to where with amateur players, we rarely see these kind of things. And let's go ahead and look at one more position with the extension. We have Gu Li, a 9-dan professional here, with against white Huang Yunsong 7-dan professional. Let's go ahead and see how they use it in this case. And in this case, this one's actually really important. I think this is probably the biggest mistake that we see from players is that they see the center as a big open place of the board that they can just always run to. It's good to remember that the center of the board, even though it can be good to be able to run out to it, it can be really scary. We may not get a lot of value from the center. It's hard for white to pick how they would really want to run out. A lot of people wouldn't really consider coming back and simply creating this extension here. They're kind of worried that they can't make life. But the thing is that black doesn't really have any good way to kill this corner. We are almost unconditionally alive. And we didn't really lose access to the center. I can't imagine what would happen if white tried to, let's just say, go out towards the center. But then if black comes back and gets that 15-point local value that we're so, afraid of playing ourselves, so we end up with a situation where maybe our group doesn't end up being worth as much as we'd like it to be. And so again, maybe we should start considering these extensions and maybe these little Ataris a little bit earlier than we would. Now, that's not to say that we should play them right away. We should heavily consider them. That is all I want to express today, is that we should be considering our options when it comes to these corner extensions. Because professional players seem to see value there, so there must be. Let's look at one more option. And I only have one game for this. I couldn't find many games that had this kind of position, but I wanted to at least include one. This is Black Jihe as 9-dan professional versus White Hong Yunsong 6-dan professional. So this is another game from Huang Yunsong. And in this case, we're going to look at this move here. Um, my thought has always been that it's something we do in endgame, but now that I've thought about it and considered it, I am not quite sure what position I would consider this uh, less endgame than this. I do know that there are forcing moves here, and especially in this case, we can see that if white was to play this way, and we go into our normal variation that we do know now, we do know that black extends to sacrifice this. Now black gets this free extension, correct? Black will get this extension without any fighting. However, when we Atari here, if black was to connect, we now get an extension. But if they choose not to do that and they just choose to simply extend, which is what happened in the game, there is a possibility that we can kind of get into this position where we mentioned how if we Atari at Q17, black gets R18. But in this case, black can't get R18. So now white can take this stone if they want, and we get that kind of slightly good position we talked about. Now, of course, in this position, white does need to come out here with this stone. They don't really have time to come back to this. But we can kind of see that there's an advantage to this move in some cases. And so with this video, I just want to point out that I don't think we get to see these variations enough. I don't think we get to see the extension enough, and I don't think we get to see this one early enough. And so I want to just leave everybody with the thought that remember that, especially if you watched my last video, staying solid can sometimes be really good. And these variations are very solid and can sometimes bait your opponent into doing really stupid things when you know that you are being held together really well. And if you liked this video, um, please subscribe and like the video. And I'll see you in the next one.